Hey everybody, welcome to the Soul Food Priest podcast / broadcast with Father Ben. It's great to have you. We are very, very blessed. I'm here with Khira Roddy and Sister Mary Lawrence. Welcome, sister.
Thank you so much for having me.
What an honor to have you. Oh my gosh, we feel very, very blessed. Welcome to our little world of food and faith. It's apocalyptic, right?
Amen.
Yeah. It makes you pray for the church. Oh my gosh. What an honor and a joy to have you. It's really amazing. And I've had the blessing of knowing you for most of your life.
It's true.
It's incredible. And you're not an atheist. I mean, it's incredible. Oh my gosh.
Miracles do happen.
I mean, it's another sign of the second coming. I think that's in Revelation, actually. Yeah. Incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us, sister.
You're so welcome. It's a joy to be here. Yes.
Thank you.
And those of you who don't know, so Father Ben's parents are my godparents. So it's been a real blessing to our life. So
yeah, it is really it's such a blessing truly for our family to have known your family for many years, because sister, her family and my family are both from Memphis, and I grew up in Midtown Memphis, right at Cooper Young, and your God has blessed me so immensely in my life and priesthood, really, with your family, and so I love them so dearly, and I can't imagine a time in my life without them. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's like a spiritual oxygen or something. It's incredible. Yeah. So please send them my hugs and blessings.
Yeah, we feel the same way.
Yeah, I remember when, so my grandmother, I said, went to Holy Rosary, one of the parishes, and I remember going to Mass there and seeing your family go into the pew. And I'd be like, wow. I was always amazed. I was like, I want to know them. Like, even when I was younger and saw them. And so then I met her when I was in college, and then
7th grader. I know.
Yep, she was in 7th grade, and I was in college. I was youth ministry, and it was incredible. And I could definitely tell this was in the future. It's 100%.
Well, that's you. I definitely could not. So I'm glad somebody knew.
See, in contrast, sister's family with the Bradshaws, my sister and I.
Well, Father, that's the thing. We just didn't do that during Mass.
Right.
Behind the scenes.
That was 1 hour. That's off limits.
Well, and I probably told you this too, sister. One of the things that we do on our podcast, we talk about kind of the mix between faith and food and how it impacts really every culture. And I know people will want to know, but like, what is it when you're cooking with the sisters? Like, what do you guys eat? Someone asked me one time, they said, Father Ben, what do the sisters eat? Like, what do they eat? And I'm like, food. Like, they actually eat food. And so, like, and then I remember years ago when I was working at St. Paul, they had a big party and all this food left over afterwards. And I mean, it was enough for like 100 people that was left over. And they're like, and one of the guys like, bring it to the sisters, they'll eat it. I'm like, okay, like, number one, they probably are not going to eat this much food. Number two, they probably don't need it. And so, like, and I think I was texting the sister, don't answer the door, right? So does that happen a lot, that people
are very generous to the sisters? Yes. And yes, so it does happen. People will give, and so sometimes we just put things in the freezer to wait for. But we do like cooking. Each of the sisters takes a different cook night.
Oh, that's cool.
Depending on what you like to make, but we're blessed to have many different cultures in our community as well. So we get a nice blend of different.
A good international kind of mix. Yeah, that's really amazing, because you're. So we were thinking it might be fun to just kind of give people a little bit of the, for lack of a better term, like pulling back the curtain a little bit of what it would be like when to actually live in a convent and to be part of religious life. And I often remind people, even though we're diocesan priests, that religious life and the religious communities are very, very, very different. They have different charisms. They have different different kind of muna, so to speak, a goal. And whereas the Dominican Sisters of St. Cecelia, education largely is the mission.
Yes, and we're a contemplative community as well. So I would say that our first focus really is our identity as being brides of Christ, which is every consecrated religious. And then from that identity flows our mission, which is education, really preaching. So in our constitutions, there's a line I love. We are fully engaged in proclaiming the Lord. Whether you're in the classroom or maybe one year you're assigned to the kitchen of the mother house, serving 200 sisters there. Maybe one year you're assigned to the laundry. Maybe one year you're... there's different ways that we serve. Most of us do teach or in education, but we're all fully engaged in proclaiming the Lord. First, by our friendship with Him and union with Him, that is central. And every aspect of our life, a lot of people see our life and see rules. Yeah. And we see our life and see freedom because those rules are there to allow us to live fully our consecration to God. Which is such a joy. I still, I think back because Khira was one of my youth directors in middle school. And
that was like 1812. Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And Father Ben, knowing you growing up and how the Lord, this was not in my schema or my plan at all. So just the joy of it is a calling and I know you feel like when the Lord calls you, you're free to say yes or no, but it's such a miracle of grace. And so our life as Dominicans, we're both contemplative and apostolic, which many orders are not. Some are not. That contemplative life is not so much there, but we have a lot of monastic customs. When we get up in the morning, it's there's silence, and we eat together in silence much of the time. Sometimes we're recreating on special feast days, but that silence allows time for us to deeply be present to the Lord. So there's this beautiful integration, I think is the best word, of our contemplative life, prayer life, and then going out and proclaiming what we who we know, Jesus. So,
Incredible. So and thank you for kind of walking through that too, Sister. Does when you, if I understand correctly, I'm trying to translate a little bit for people that maybe know nothing. So there's kind of a mix between both the community and the apostolic work of going out, keeping in mind that some of the sisters would actually be working at the same school, at the same location, in addition to living in the same place.
Yes, so thank you. Yes, so our convent here in Memphis is at St. Paul. So it's such a joy to be there. Our sisters have been there since 1965. So we all live together in our convent, and then 3 of us each day go teach at St. Paul, and then 2 drive to St. Benedict every morning. Long drive. So we live together. Our community life is very integral to our life. Like you said, diocesan priesthood is very different. So we eat together, we pray together. We have this communal. Really, if you read Acts of the Apostles, the early Christian church, it's really modeled after the liturgy of that time. And so and then we go out and preach, and then we come back and more prayers and more food. It's awesome. And then rest and ready for the next day. So it is a very structured life. So we and thanks for saying that, because sometimes I forget people don't. We get up at the same time. Someone rings a bell. I mean, there's a structure to our life. We pray every day. We get up at 5 a.m. 5:30, we have 30 minutes of meditation together in the chapel with the Lord, and then we have Mass every morning, morning prayer together, breakfast together. So there is a routine, and we and then we come back home, and then 5 o'clock prayers, Vespers, and then Rosary, and then after that supper. So there is every day. There's a lot of unknowns in everyone's day, and a lot of unknowns in our day and the things that we encounter. But that structure is a known, and it's what keeps us grounded in that contemplative life I was speaking about. And it really is a joy. And I think that's what I would love to communicate is our life is a joy, and we don't feel trapped. It's not like that it really is it's a joy to have that to come home to, and it's not a lack of freedom.
Yeah.
I know I've had the joy of knowing so many Dominicans just in our family. Just our kids go to the school, to one of the schools where we have about 3 Dominicans teaching there, and then being able to sometimes go to the Mother House in Nashville, or be able to go to the Bethany House on retreat. It's such a beautiful joy. But I do know that, I mean, they're just incredible teachers. Oh my gosh, y'all
incredible.
I mean, y'all are the reason we actually moved to where we are, because my husband and I always had a dream at the beginning of our marriage for our kids to be taught by the Dominican sisters, and God's roundabout way it happened, and so we're grateful. But I do know that when I have gone to retreat at the Bethany House, they're like, okay, we're going to do silent breakfast. And for us moms, especially if it's a women's retreat,
right,
and we're all together for the first time without our kids, all you want to do is talk, and we're like, silent breakfast, but that sense of freedom is what I experienced, though, because I didn't realize how much you overthink it. Okay, when I wake up, am I going to go here? Am I going to go there? Am I going to talk to these people? Am I going to go talk to that? Who am I going to sit with? What am I going to do? Am I going to go spend time in prayer? But what if my friends come? And then when it's silent, and the silence is there, all of those questions go away, and you just go into the silence, just freely go into the silence. And you're and so that's when it clicked for me. I was like, oh, that's what this means, so that's really beautiful. And and I've also had the huge blessing of some sisters at our small convent in Jackson, Tennessee, invite me over for a night prayer, and y'all, that was it's heaven on earth. Whether you're in the Mother House or you just have 3 or 4 surrounding you, it's like the angels of heaven are seeing. It's just heaven on earth. I always
have to laugh whenever I'm at Mother House celebrating Mass. So it's me and I don't know 200 sisters, and they're 35 octaves higher than anything I can sing. I'm singing like this, but it's so beautiful just to to your point, to hear them singing together. And I'm like, wow, it's so powerful.
Can I explain the Mother House, what that?
Yeah,
we say that.
So we threw that out.
When Khira's talking about the Mother House and Father, so our sisters have a home base, and that's in Nashville. So our sisters first came there in 1860 at the request of the bishop. So that's where we go for Christmas. It's where we go. It's it's home for us. It's where we go for Christmas, for the holidays. We have community days each in the summertime. And then Memphis, so our mission here in Jackson and in Memphis at St. Paul's and at St. Mary's, we call them our mission houses. So we teach in 30 different schools around the United States of America.
Wow.
All over. And we're also in some international countries now. This is new within the past 20 years, but the Netherlands, Scotland, Ireland, Australia, Canada, and then Bracciano in Rome area. So we're really casting the net, or the Lord is casting the net wide. So we are in education ministry, but in some of these places where it's harder, we may not be in the schools that we're helping with youth ministry or in the parish life. So we call all those places missions. Whether you're in Memphis or in Ireland, we call them mission houses.
Incredible.
And how many are in your community total? About how many total?
About 300.
Wow.
About 300. So
it's incredible. Oh my gosh, it's such a joyful place to go.
Yeah,
because you see it just in her face, and so many of their faces, the beautiful joy.
Yeah, I think that I was going to make that point, is I think one of the things that is so immensely attractive to whether it's priesthood or religious life is certainly holiness, but it's joy. I remember when I first went to visit the seminary, when I was working as a chef, I thought, well, maybe I should try to figure this out. I was like, gosh, Jesus is so needy. I was like, come on, Lord. Yeah, you won't let me go. You won't let me go. Anyway, so I go to the seminary, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go and kind of see what the Lord puts on my heart. But that was the first thing I noticed was they were happy. Mm-hmm. People were actually happy there.
Yeah.
And not just the students, but the staff. Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few religious there too. But I remember thinking, they're actually happy, which was very attractive to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well, I think that's one of the, at least for me, I think many of our sisters, when you have a calling, you just know. It's hard to describe. But it's your choice whether you take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
And the fear, my biggest fear was I will not be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you see, and similar, when I went to the Mother House and saw sisters happy and joyful and couldn't figure it out. And that actually doesn't make sense in many ways. Because again, if you look at it like a bunch of rules, then it's not going to make sense. But it was the joy I saw in the sisters that helped me make that leap of faith, just to try, I mean, and that's the other thing you have to remember. If you feel called to be a priest or a sister, there's a nice, I think it's 7 or 8 years, it's 8 years now between when you enter the convent and make your final commitment. Yeah. So
it's not like they come in and sign on the dotted line.
No, and
we got you.
No. It wouldn't be good for anybody.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Isn't that true?
Because it is a calling, and it takes discernment both on the individual's part and the community's part. Is this really where God is calling you for your whole life? To be here. So there's such peace in that. So when you make that leap to know, okay, this is the next step I know I'm supposed to make, and then the Lord will reveal as I go forward whether I also make that final commitment. So it does. I think it does help alleviate some of that fear as well. But I think most people, if they don't respond to their vocation, it's often because of fear of not being happy. I mean, because we all want.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They want to be happy.
Indeed.
No matter who you are, like you can't. Every human person. It's like we're wired for happiness. So
and I think too, like people would often ask, I think especially with religious life, what's the deal with obedience? Like when we have, I think for priests, people would often say, well, Father, when is the Vatican going to let you guys get married? And my response to that is, look, I know thousands of priests. I don't know one of them that wants to get married. And I said, we love marriage, but it's not for us, right? And besides that, we are married to the people of the church. But I do think for priests, at least, the challenge is sometimes obedience. And like one invests one's heart and time into a parish, and then all of a sudden you have to pass the keys to someone else. And one never quite knows what's going to happen there. And yet, to some extent, that's very liberating because we go and we say, okay, what does the Lord have up his sleeve here? Is that ever like a challenge for some of the sisters?
That's a great question. The vow of obedience.
Not that I'm putting you on the spot.
No, put me on the spot. That's why I came. So we do take 3 vows: poverty, chastity, and obedience. And as you're speaking, Father, what was coming to mind actually, because that's such a real struggle. And as you're speaking, yes, we go where we're sent. So we get our assignments each year in May, and we know where we'll be the next year, and it could be in the same place or it could be somewhere else.
Yeah.
As you're speaking, what I was thinking is how many people in the world who aren't sisters or religious also have to be obedient to their circumstances. Isn't it interesting? So just the reality of whether I'm thinking about right now a married couple who the husband couldn't find a job, and for a year was without a job, and they had to just take the next best step, and that's in a sense having to be obedient to this circumstance that I wouldn't choose for myself. So does that happen to us? In a sense, yes. The sense of maybe I wouldn't choose for myself to go to this place, but it's been asked of me, and in this situation, not by the circumstances of life, but by my superior, whom I said yes to.
Right. Yeah.
And so it does kind of help, I think, people understand that. And then as people with faith, if you have faith, that circumstance, like that couple I know who for over a year had to wait, and then now fruit is happening and finding their feet again, they would say that suffering helped form their character. So I think in a similar way, when by vow of obedience I go where I'm sent, and I may not have chosen that for myself. But when I said yes to him in 2008, when I made my vows, I said yes to all these choices that would be made for me in a sense. But sometimes I just think, is it so different from, the situation people find themselves in? Yes, it is, because I am vowed. But I think we're all called to an obedience. as well. So as you're speaking, that's kind of what I was thinking. Is it's amazing how we're actually, every Christian's called to poverty, chastity, and obedience in a particular way, right? In different ways. So we're called to it in a very radical way.
Yeah.
But married couple, I heard someone say once, the choice is not so different between being a priest or being a sister and being married. When you are married, you choose one person for the rest of your life. When you're a priest or sister, you choose, the Lord is that for you, right? But yes, there are many ways where it's different, but you have to be, you're called to be faithful. So you're called to live a chaste married life.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the poverty of living with someone else, that's a poverty. Like having preferences, like you have preferences, he has preferences. Like having to let go, that's a poverty. And then obedience, being obedient to the circumstances. I just so the longer I'm in, this is my 18th year, I think, in the convent. So the more I just pray and reflect on that, it's amazing to me how much each Christian is actually called to live in some way the way we're called to live it radically.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful to contemplate.
Indeed.
I agree.